Good afternoon, everybody. It is a lovely Friday, sunny afternoon in Quimby Elephant Park, where we've started off the show today. My name is Terry Dupree, and I'll be your naturalist presenter for the day. Joining us on our director side, we have Gwen, and on Taker, we have Marcel. It is a lovely sunny Friday, and this elephant ball has decided to come and enjoy a nice bit of a mud bath. So we do have a bit of rainfall in some of our locations. Djuma has been raining most of today, and yesterday Johannesburg was pretty much raining most of the day as well. So it seems like we're experiencing some scattered showers across our locations. So lovely to have this rain rolling in. So just a reminder, folks, that this is a live and interactive experience. So if you're watching on our app or on the website, you can go and register, ask any questions. Let me know if you have any preferred locations you would like to check out today, any special birds that you'd like to see that I can look out for. You can also use the QR code on screen now to send through those comments, questions. Let me know how your week has been, what your plans are for the weekend. And of course, don't forget to use the hashtag at Wild Earth if you are on Twitter. Darlington, thank you for watching with us today from Lusaka, Zambia. Awesome to get some viewers from Zambia. Shucks, I don't think I've had a viewer from Zambia for a while, so lovely to see some viewers from some of our other southern African countries. Lusaka. I wonder if you're having any rain in Zambia at the moment, Darlington. I know Vic Falls is also having scattered rainfall, but again, it's always bruise and then, not much rain follows, but lots of clouds, lots of humidity, lots of buildup. So yeah, please let me know if you're having any rainfall, Darlington, Lusaka. I know in Vic Falls, if you're sitting at Safari Lodge, which is one of our live locations here, you can often see the rain building up on the Zambian side of the river, and as soon as it gets to the Zambezi River, it kind of just stops instantly. It doesn't always come over to the Zimbabwean side. So yeah, love to know what the rain is like in Zambia. I hope it's cooling down. I know it was very hot last month in some of the national parks in Zambia. A lot of animals really struggling with the heat wave. So I hope that the weather is cooling down a little bit for you there. Victoria Pont, thank you for joining from Australia. Shucks, we have some international people watching on the show today. So yeah, please let me know where you are watching us from today. I'd love to know what viewers we have with us today. So we've got someone, Darlington from Zambia. I'm from Zimbabwe. We do have Victoria, also from Australia. CD's been, thank you for sending through your comments. And yep, happy Chatters Friday. It is a lovely Friday afternoon. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to the weekend ahead. So lots of nice mud wallowing spots here that we have for these elephant bulls to come and have a good old mud bath. A lot of nice mineral soils, mineral rich soils in this area in Tembe. It's one of my theories as to why these elephants have such beautiful, long and strong tusks, is because the soil in Maputo land here in South Africa is very mineral rich, and it helps to keep those tusks of the elephants very nice and strong and grow very long. Catherine, thank you for joining us as well in Germany. Oof, goodness gracious me, I believe you're having some snow in Germany. Yeah, so I hope that you're keeping warm and yeah, not letting the miserable weather get to you too much. But this elephant seems to have noticed something. So his body language all of a sudden very quickly changed. He was quite relaxed, and all of a sudden his head went up and seems to be a little bit nervous. What has he seen? He's probably heard or seen something. It's given him a bit of a fright. See, a lot of animal behavior can be interpreted through their body language as well. So, not just in verbal communication can we understand animals better, but in body language, a lot of their body posture can help us to identify um, the mood or state of mind that these animals are in. Something he's probably the wind has picked up a smell and sent it over into his direction, and that elephant is not happy about something. Maybe there's a lion around or a leopard or something. Be pretty cool. I've seen two female lions or lionesses coming down to this pan having a drink before. We'll have a scan, see what's out there. Do often have our little brown hooded kingfisher that sometimes hangs out on this little acacia on the left hand side of our screen. It's a very beautiful little kingfisher that sometimes uses these branches as his perching spot to look and search for any food before making a kill. We also had some impala down here yesterday. Pretty round female impala looking like they're about to give birth sometime soon. It sounds like some crakes having a bit of a squabble. The black crakes. So just having a look in this acacia tree. What is there? Maybe I just have to have another double check. Maybe if there could always be any little birds hanging around. Oop, dragonflies. We do have our two woolly neck stalks that are still at this watering hole. Could be three. Is there three or two? Iconic sound of South Africa, the Hardida ibis, reminding us he is also in the area. Here we go. So one of the female impalas, she looks rather round. She might be popping out a little baby impala sometime soon. It's lovely to have all these little baby animals running around the place. A lot of baby impala, warthog, wildebeest. A lot of the animals will be dropping their babies at this time of year. So yeah, with the rains comes a lot of new, fresh life, a lot of excitement, a lot of energy. Wow, these little baby impala, they do a prance around and form little creches where they'll all spend a lot of time playing with one another during the day. Thank goodness they can get rid of some of that energy because they are very full of energy, baby animals. And we have our woolly next door that's giving himself a good old groom. So we had a conversation yesterday about black stork versus Abdom stork and woolly neck stork. So, yeah, the woolly neck stork and black stork are quite different. So, woolly neck stork and the abdom stork can be quite easily confused, except for the fact that woolly neck stork does have quite a prominent white neck, whereas a black stork is, yeah, to me a bit of a shabby, scruffy looking stork, a bit smaller than your abdom stork and has a bit of blue coloration on his head. But yeah, a lot of different stork species out there. We're just having a bit of a scan here, see what else is around. Sometimes it's good if you're sitting at a hide or a platform and want to figure out if there's anything moving around. Sometimes it is good to have these quiet moments to just listen, hear what else is around, what else is out there. I always like to take a good book with you, a few bird books, so you can be identifying some species, see if you can find some new birds or wildlife, animals, read about some insects, while you wait patiently to see if anything comes down. Patience. Patience is definitely key while doing a hide sit. And as with most of our locations in South Africa, it does look like Tembe might also be in for some rainfall. Look at those looming clouds. So we have an old excavated termite mound over there. Looks like it could have been dug out by an aardvark, possibly looking for some grubs, trying to get to that queen. It's very nutritious. So for an aardvark to manage to get to the heart of a colony of termites and eat that queen termite, it's very full in nutrients and protein. So yeah, so queen termite is definitely on a aardvark's list of one of their preferred meals. And again, lots of energy and effort will go into trying to get to the base of a termite colony in order to extract that queen. But it's got a lot of protein in there, so that's definitely a meal that will fill an aardvark up for sure. Depending on the size of an aardvark, so aardvark obviously they're mostly insectivores, so they do feed on mostly termites. And an adult aardvark does need to consume anything between 10 to 15,000 termites in a night. So that is why they are such busy little creatures. So as soon as night falls, those aardvarks are up and about and roaming around looking for food. Looks like we've got some Egyptian geese. We might have still have a pair of Egyptian geese feeding at the water's edge, and our white-faced whistling ducks that always give a lovely melodious call at this location. So we're just checking to see some of our cameras and other locations to have a look and find out if there's anything else happening out there today. Unfortunately, because of all the rain, there's been a lot of rain at some of our locations. It seems to be a bit quiet. So we will be a little bit limited with our cameras that we can link across to. But let's have a bit of patience today. We can test our patience levels and see if we can patiently watch and wait for any animals, birds, or any wildlife to pop out. Awesome. So it seems like Lentore is going to be a good option to go and check out for some birds. So let's go see what birds we can find over in Kenya. Oh, hello, Mr. Hummercock. Not very often we see Hummercock in the show. So you can hear that's him giving a bit of a squawk. Oh, there's two. Just going to have a bit of a listen so they can complete their call here. How cool is this? A mating display of the hammerkop. So yeah, generally, as soon as I heard that kind of incomplete call, that slight like cheeping sound of the hammerkops, that's generally indicates that they're trying to start a bit of a mating call. So yeah, and then once they start vocalizing, the male will actually jump on top of the female's back like that and start to do a bit of a mating dance and mating display. How cool to be able to see that live here today. Pretty awesome. So again, hammerkops to me are very underrated birds. I know they're very brown and drab, and they don't really seem like they have much. They're kind of overlooked in a lot of places, but they're actually very characterful. And if you spend enough time watching them, they're actually quite entertaining, I must say. So besides, obviously, they're so yeah, they're very cool to watch these hammerkops displaying here. So they have a very intricate mating display between the male and females. Obviously, they do make one of the largest nests upon all bird species. So these make these huge nests up in trees, compiling of mostly sticks and a lot of kind of yeah vegetation as well, and that's where they lay their eggs inside that nest. Generally, they make the hole on the underside of the nest to protect their eggs from being eaten by snakes. Looks like we've got our little squirrel friend that came down for a bit of a drink on the left hand side of the screen here. Often a little squirrel that comes down. Look at them giving themselves a bit of a groom. So yeah, they're also pretty cool in the way that they hunt these hammerkops. So I call them the DJ bird because how they hunt is they actually move in the water while shaking their feet from side to side, look like a DJ on his turntable, and that helps to disturb the fish and allowing them to be able to use that opportunistic moment of the fish being frazzled and disturbed to make their kill. Where's our squirrel friend gone? Oh, there's our squirrel. Check at that little guy. So, yep, he's probably looking for any fresh little nuts and seeds and fruits in the ground, fresh leaves, lots of shoots and roots as well. So they have quite a varied diet, these squirrels. They're omnivores. Of course, sorry, herbivores. So they mostly feed on nuts, seeds, fruits, but from time to time they can also feed on green leaves and shoots as well. So these very cool to see our little squirrel friend. This is probably the one of the tree squirrels. Oh, there he is. I wonder what he's eating. I'm gonna have a look see what he is consuming there. Of course, their diet does mostly consist of plant matter squirrels, but from time to time they do also feed on fungi. And obviously, we know that their favorite foods is obviously seeds and nuts. Now, also feed on bark of trees as well as small buds. How cute is this little squirrel? is he feeding on? So thanks for your comments, Julian. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see the mating display of hammerkops. I've been lucky to see it. It's quite common in areas where you do get a lot of hammerkop activity. But yeah, pretty cool to actually see it live here. And yeah, they do it quite often throughout the year. So it's not just during the mating season. So it's kind of a way of the male and female kind of um, yeah, repronouncing their engagement or just reminding each other of their kind of connection and their partnership between the two. So I've seen them doing this mating display throughout the years. It's not just seasonal that they do this mating display. Spicy Inkov, yes, I have seen Hammerkop's nest. It's quite common to see them. There's actually one at quite a few at Mabulla. So when I'm next at Mabulla, closer to the end of the month, we'll definitely find a Hammerkop's nest for you and show you how massive these nests can become. So they'll often sit on the top of the nest and also do this mating display of theirs. But yeah, and the nest can be used for many, many years and generations. So the name Hammerkop can mean hammerhead. It comes from the Afrikaans name of hammerhead, but also a nickname for hammerkop is someone who likes to hoard things, like a squirrel hoarding their nuts. These hammerkops are also hoarders. So often in their nest, they'll actually put material. They can get pieces of they like to collect things to decorate their nests. If they find little pieces of plastic or material or anything colorful and bright, they'll also go and stick that up in their nest there to kind of, yeah, decorate their nest. Fuzzy Dunlop, I agree with you there. Nothing better than getting on one of your friends' back in order to have a bit of a shot. So, yeah, they definitely want to make their presence known. Hummerkops, they do have that quite interesting call that does grab your attention. So, Peter J, yes, unfortunately, squirrels are prone to being attacked by birds. So, bigger birds of prey, like your eagles, so a brown snake eagle will definitely take like Christy Franklin calling there. So yeah, brown snake eagle or any bigger birds of prey will definitely hunt upon this little squirrels, a nice snack. And of course, if a serval or a caracal does find a squirrel, that will also make a very good meal for a serval or a caracal. So it's quite interesting. Yesterday we were talking about kind of totems and cultural beliefs and traditional beliefs. And in the African culture, this bird, the hammerkop, is actually associated with a lot of myths and superstition. So it's often linked to the nesting behavior and its habits. And in some communities, this bird is actually viewed as a bad luck omen. So depending on how you see the bird, but I know in South Africa and Zimbabwe, a lot of people believe that if this bird lands on your house will be struck by lightning or bad things are going to happen to you, something like that. I'm not too sure. And if it's near your swimming pool, there's also some other beliefs about the swimming pool. I don't know. Some I've seen people draining their swimming pools because they've had a hammerkop landing near the swimming pool and they believe that it's a very bad omen. So quite interesting how these facts and fables do go around. Um, Obviously, they'll just be in your garden, so they do come into residential areas looking for food. One of the favorite foods of the hammerkop, obviously, are frogs. They do love eating frogs, especially frogs that are way too big for them to swallow. So what they'll do is they'll actually beat up this frog, take it onto a bank, knock it up. So we're just talking about how these hammerkops love feeding on frogs. So they'll often catch frogs that might be too big for them to swallow. What they do is they'll take the frog onto land and they'll actually try to um, kind of bash the frog onto the ground as much as they can, flick it around in order to make it more easily able to be swallowed. So generally, you do find these hummercops in most. They are always associated with water. Wherever their nests are and wherever they occur, they do need to always be close to water. And you generally always find them in pairs. So they will be in monogamous pairs. Although, if one of the partners does die, they generally might find another partner if the opportunity arises. Looks like he's giving himself a good bath this morning. Very cool to see these hammercops. Yeah, it's actually my first time, I think, seeing hammercops on live at the waterhole. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so very cool to see these hammercops mating here. It's not something you see every day. They were quite discreet, so we just saw a bit of the displaying, but there was most definitely some mating going on. So they'll generally lay about 2 eggs, these hammercops, and again, it's quite difficult for predators to get into that nest. Just having a So yeah, awesome to see these hammercops interacting here. Yeah, we were talking about the diet of a hammercop. So not only do hammercops eat frogs, I think they must be of some sort of French descent because these hammercops go crazy for frogs, just like the French. And French people love having their frogs' legs. But hammercops will also feed on fish as well. So fish, newts, larvae as well. But generally, most of their diet comprises of frogs and fish. So they generally spend most of their time at the water's edge, and this is where their hunting ground is. Oh, little squirrel friend has come back. Very busy little creature. We just had our squirrel friend. He didn't seem to hang around for very long. Oh, got some more starlings. Could be long-tailed starlings or mead starlings that have just flown in here for a drink. Lots of butterflies and dragonflies also being attracted by the water. So, while we were on the topic of facts and fables and myths and traditional beliefs, yesterday we also had a conversation about all these traditional beliefs and how they can be a negative or positive in the conservation world and for wildlife. So, oh, check out these starlings, aren't they beautiful? Oh, here's our hummercup. You can definitely see that hammerhead shaped head of his. So yeah, it can be very positive, a positive thing for wildlife and for the natural environment. Um, all these interesting beliefs, whether they are correct or incorrect, but a lot of these taboos can actually help to protect certain species. Um, as well as areas or forests. You do get sacred forests, totem animals, and of course, traditional medicine practices that can help to preserve and protect the specific wildlife in certain areas. So it can be a huge advantage here to protecting these animals. But again, as we were speaking about yesterday, it can also be a slight disadvantage in the regard of using animal parts and animals for traditional medicine. So it's kind of a 50-50. And again, a lot of these beliefs can, yeah, be a detriment to some species. So a lot of species that are used in traditional medicine, as we said, hyena. So a lot of the night creatures are very mysterious. So owls, bats, hyenas, lions. Yeah, so you do get all these animals that are have a lot of parts that are used in traditional medicine. So it can be a bit of a conflict between conservation and traditional beliefs in this regard. But it's great when you have these conservation initiatives that help to work with communities and raise awareness of kind of the rates of population decline in the natural environment. So, yeah, always great to look at the positive side and see how these traditional beliefs and fables can also benefit wildlife as well, like all these interesting stories we have to share. Kind of where the other birds are. So often we do get a lot of little firefinches and waxbills that come down. So we're hoping we can get some bird life coming in. Maybe get some new bird lifers. So Ruth Ann, yes, it's so really interesting to see that hammerkop next to the starlings to kind of get a good size comparison to how big they are. So yeah, they are actually quite big birds. Say that be in comparative in size, not body weight, to like a franklin. So they are quite like a medium-sized bird, and yeah, it's very impressive that crest of theirs as well when you realize how big it actually is. Just having a scan. So these thick acacia fallen over branch that's on the side of this pan is actually quite useful for all of the smaller birds coming down to drink that might be afraid of being snatched up by a bigger bird of prey. So they'll come down in the thickets there and drink in the thick area, and those thorns help to protect them from being swooped up by any predators. Lucy, thank you for your question. So Lucy's asking if there are any crocodiles in this pan. So I don't think there would be any crocodiles in this pan here. It's a little. Our hammerkop is just reminding us that he is around. So yeah, Lucy, this dam is or pan is a little bit small to harbor any crocodiles, but I wouldn't be surprised if you get some monitor lizards also coming and feeding or just passing by and spending some time in this pan. You might also get some little terrapins, like water tortoise, so the terrapin species that might also come and frequent this pan as well. Got some birds chirping. Where's that? What have we got vocalizing here? Cool. So don't have much bird activity as much as I was hoping here. So why don't we head across to Rosie's pan and see what is waiting for us there. So it looks like they're also experiencing some rainfall over in Olifants at Rosie's pan. Nice overcast rainy day. And looks like we still have our hippo friend that is in the water here. He's been in this pan for couple of weeks or maybe over a month or something like that now. I think, yeah, possibly 2 months he's almost been in this pan. So, yeah, he must be really enjoying himself. I hope there's enough grass nearby for him to feed on at night. Can barely notice he's there until he pops his head out of the water. This is a big male hippo, solitary bull on his own. And again, if he doesn't pop his head out of the water, he just looks like a log or a stick or an island. So apparently this hippo was a bit more active before we tuned over, but I think he is hiding from all the rain and just putting his head under the water. So hippos can generally hold their breath underwater for anything between 4 to 8 minutes. I know most places on Google. Oh, check that yawn. Thank you, Mr. Hippo. Isn't that a lovely display? And a lot of people say it's the way of hippos, a happy hippo smile. Which, if you're on a canoe, I don't think you'll be so happy if you see a hippo yawning like that. It can also be, obviously, if he's tired too, but mostly a form of dominance display. So, especially the big bulls will display like this to one another in order to threaten or ward off any intruders. There's so much about wildlife that we don't know. So, I was just mentioning on Google, most places you'll go to as a reference will show you that hippos can hold their breath for 5 to 6 minutes underwater, but I have timed it on a few occasions when as soon as the hippo goes under, start your timer there. And I've definitely recorded hippos underwater for more than 8 minutes. So yeah, obviously they're very well adapted to living in the aquatic environment. A family of hippos is known as a pod of hippos, and then of course you do get these solitary hippo bulls roaming around by themselves. So this is a nice overcast day, and yeah, you wouldn't be surprised to see our hippo out of the water on a cool day like today. So Inga, yes, it is a bit of a lonely life for a hippo on his own, just like the buffalo bulls, although they do let their aggression out from time to time. So in, for example, on a dam or a water system, you'll generally have how the social structure works is you'll get the pods, the family group that do have their preferred territorial spots that they'll like to hang out. There might be two or three locations that they'll generally like to hang out in. Again, hippos don't like to be in areas with too much deep water. They need to have sandbanks. They are very good swimmers, but they do need to have sandbanks to stand on, especially if they have a lot of babies. And then the bulls will kind of also have their little territorial spots. Depending on space, it might only be one or two places the bulls might hang out. Um, so if you're on a canoe safaris or if you're boating a lot in one area, you generally very quickly tend to pick up the movements of the hippos, and if you don't find them in one area, where to find them. So that's why, yeah, they're kind of to become a professional canoe guide in a lot of African countries does take a lot of hours in the river. So, yeah, in order to learn the behavior of these hippos, you do need to spend a lot of time and observing and watching their habits because you definitely do not want a big hippo like this to bump over your canoe or snap your canoe in half because you saw those nasty chompers that they have, those big tusks that they have can be yeah, very destructive. And yeah, but yeah, shame the hippo bulls do get quite lonely, same as buffalo bulls. But yeah, it's always best to give them enough space, let them be grumpy on their own. Yeah, not to antagonize them too much, otherwise, well, they can be a bit of a nuisance, especially once they get used to chasing boats. Goodness gracious me, yeah. not have some very unfond memories of being chased by hippos. And again, you might not disturb the hippos, but they might have been disturbed by another boat on a previous occasion, and you just come along, and the hippo all of a sudden decides that it's not too fond of you being in his space and maybe has a bad experience. So, yeah, always great to give these animals their space and respect them, especially the big hippo bulls. Maybe he'll give us another yawn. Sorry, folks, I think we had some camera difficulties. So we've just changed over to Juma. We are on the Sabi Sands now with an Egyptian goose that's also looking for his lunch, feeding on some seeds and grass, probably. So they've got a lot of rainfall in Juma. I think it's been raining all day, so nice to see that the rain has cleared up. Hopefully, it'll clear up enough for the sunset safari to get some good sightings. Alrighty, let's head over to Safari Hook in Namibia and see what else is waiting for us. Whoa, looks like we have come over at the right time. We have got a whole herd of wildebeest and zebra coming down to have a midday drink, and a female giraffe on the right hand side. Shame it looks like a hot and dusty day in Namibia. Just having a quick watch, seeing what else is out there today. So, just an interesting fact or fable about the Egyptian goose. So, obviously, the Egyptian goose is a symbol. Is quite a sacred symbol in Egypt. I mentioned yesterday how about a lot of the Egyptian artwork does have the Egyptian goose associated with a lot of their yeah, different temples, and it does symbolize fertility and the life cycle. And one of the myths about the Egyptian goose is that it's believed that the loud call of an Egyptian goose is a heralded sound that will signify the arrival of the gods and spirits. So, yeah, learning some very new, interesting facts and fables about animals and birds today. They seem a bit nervous to come down. Shame. These wildebeest seem a little bit nervous. So there's a lot of juveniles. You can see the juvenile wildebeest in the front. So they'll generally have a lighter brown kind of color on their forelock there. So their foreheads are a bit lighter in color. So those look like the juveniles from last year. As they mature, they become completely black on the forehead there. We've got a good question from Picasso is asking how prone are giraffes to being killed by lightning? So giraffes are prone to being struck by lightning, unfortunately, seeing as they are quite tall mammals, towering height, especially in open landscapes areas or savannas. So yeah, they generally, as soon as it starts raining, giraffe will try and head for cover as much as possible. So there have been a few documented cases of giraffe being struck by lightning. In 2020, there were two giraffe which were reportedly killed by lightning in a national park in South Africa. But otherwise, generally, I don't think it's too much of a big issue, and it's not detrimental to their survival. So it's probably just a few individuals, unlucky individuals, a year might get struck by lightning. Check out these wildebeest. Isn't that awesome to see them drinking like this? Let's have a bit of a quiet moment while we just enjoy watching these wildebeest have a drink, as well as the zebra coming down. We might get some vocalizations from the zebra there. So we've got the zebra, we've got wildebeest, brindled gnu, or blue wildebeest, our giraffe, female giraffe coming down, and I saw some springbok. So just off to the side. So, a few more interesting did you know facts about zebra. So, in African culture, zebra, the black and white stripes are believed to represent balance and duality. So, it seems to be a good symbol of life and death and good and evil. So, the myth behind zebra and their stripes is that they are symbolic for relationships between the spiritual world and the physical world due to their unique markings. So, yeah, they seem to be a very good indicator of this different yin and yang, the spiritual and the real world, and represents the connection between humans and the divine universe. So, well, quite interesting to learn all these interesting facts about and beliefs about wildlife animals. They are also known to be protectors, zebra. So, it's like a female zebra is very protective over her little foal, while the males are very aggressive and protective and can even fight to the death when protecting their family. Um, also believed to protect against the bad spirits and ensures safety. So it's a symbol of protection against the evil spirits in the other world. So I don't know if we have any believers of the kind of supernatural, but if you are a believer of the supernatural, the zebra is a very important animal to protect you against evil spirits. So, another interesting belief about the wildebeest is that some African tribes believe that the wildebeest is also a spiritual messenger. So, a messenger who brings rain and blessings to the land, especially when large herds are seen migrating through the region. So, obviously, with the migratory patterns and migratory routes of these wildebeest, and as they move through, they generally try to follow the rains in order to have enough food to feed on with all the green grass. So when people see wildebeest moving in large numbers, they know that the rains are coming soon. So they are a spiritual messenger in some African beliefs. Must be in in Kenya and Tanzania. I'm sure this is probably where these beliefs do come from. Shame our female giraffes also trying to come down for a bit of a drink. So please, folks, I'd love to learn any different myths or beliefs about any birds or animals that we are seeing on the live at the waterhole today. So if there's anything you'd like to contribute or add, I'd love to learn more about what beliefs people might have about these creatures in the natural environment. Please feel free to head over to our Twitter or X and send through those comments. So we had some waterbuck down at this waterhole here at Safari Hook. It was the day before yesterday, so lovely to see some waterbuck around. Must mean that there's hopefully enough water in this area. Because waterbuck are generally quite water dependent. They won't be too far away from areas that are too arid and remote. So hoping that there's enough water out there for this wildlife. Shame this female giraffe seems rather skeptical about coming down for a drink. Maybe there's a little bit too much activity. We'll just patiently wait for her. Hopefully, we'll get the pleasure of watching her bend down for a drink of water. There we go. It seems it's quite an open pan here, so I don't know. She doesn't have much to worry about. I don't think she has anything to worry about with regards to predators, but giraffe can be quite skeptical before going down for a drink. When they're bending down like that in their downward dog giraffe pose, it does make them quite vulnerable to predators being able to easily hunt them. So maybe she's just being extra cautious. It looks like we got a little zebra foal coming in here. How cute! The zebra and wildebeest are also very important, not just an important cultural symbol, but they do embody a lot of lessons and balance, endurance, and obviously a lot of information that can be extracted from, yeah, preserving and protecting these zebra and wildebeest species. Obviously, with the migration, also their hooves moving through these open grassland. How cute this little zebra foal looks like. It must be probably less than 2 weeks old. It's a tiny little thing. How cute. I love baby zebra when they're born. Their legs are all wobbly. Well, most baby little antelope these wobbly little legs, so very long legs um, when they're born, in order to blend into the herd. So that if you have a look, their legs are very long, so it helps to keep their bellies at the same level. So um, a predator, it's quite difficult to single out the youngsters in a herd if they're all uniform and look the same height. Because, yeah, lions would love to eat a little baby zebra. So both the zebra and wildebeest are obviously very important to the ecology of African savannas and the roles that they play in the life cycle and help to create balance in the natural world. So the kind of the migration patterns, especially with the wildebeest, forms a very important role in the its food chain of command, and it does help to shape a lot of development with regard to the predator. So it helps to give food to a lot of the predators. Oh, we've got another giraffe that's come to visit. So it's like our female has a friend. So it's a big male giraffe, possibly following after the female. She might be in season. And I think we also have an oryx somewhere that's also popped in for a drink. So thank you, animal lover, for your information, your cultural belief about the giraffes. Apparently, in some cultures, the giraffe is often represented spiritually as a kind of oracle, a creature who could foresee things and see time and space. So I'm not surprised that people believe giraffe could maybe see into the future. A very keen sense of eyesight because they're very well adapted to being able to see over very long distances. Yeah, that height gives them quite an uncanny advantage. A very cool fact about a giraffe there. Thank you, animal lover. And Mindy, very cool to see these giraffe. They definitely look nice and brown. Um, Nice coloration. This male has probably been following this female for a few days. And we've got some oryx also coming down. So while we are on the giraffe, so again with the giraffe, we mentioned it's a very good omen of a wise creature that can see into the future or can possibly predict a lot of events that might be able to happen. So obviously, with it's associated with a lot of traditional beliefs and myths, and some of these myths are in again in some regions. I'm not too sure which region it could be. It could be in southern Africa. It's believed that the giraffe's long neck allows it to also obviously have a very extent wisdom. So they believe that they're very wise creatures and they are very much worshipped. So in the Shona culture in Zimbabwe, the giraffe is considered as also considered as a messenger from the divine, so embodied qualities that bridge the physical spirit realm. So it has the ability to reach branches of trees. So they believe it has some divine powers. Yes, some oryx. And they look like maybe looking for some salt. Very graceful, those oryx. I wonder if there isn't a predator around because the giraffe have been very skeptical. These oryx are also quite skeptical. So, George, thanks for your information about a zebra. So, apparently, George has sent through some information about the Masai Mara people in Kenya. Believe that zebra were once entirely white, but the gods kind of imprinted them with this coloration, and it was a kind of a symbol of resilience bestowed upon them. So the black stripes are a symbol of power and strength. So I didn't realize even zebra and wildebeest have such high significance in the so many different cultures. So obviously, you do have animals that are higher sought after and of higher importance culturally, but I guess all animals do have some form of cultural importance. Just have a bit of a scan, see what else is out there today. We had a really cool sighting yesterday with some elephants here. So we had a little baby elephant that was rolling around in the mud right here at this pan and Safari Hook. Oh, it was the most adorable thing to watch. We still have our Abdom stork still been hanging around, and lovely reflection of this giraffe in the water. I think he can hear us. I feel like he's very suspicious of us. He's just standing there gazing away. So interesting, giraffe are also a symbol of longevity. So apparently they believe because giraffes have such long necks and such a long lifespan that this is linked to an eternal life. So yeah, quite cool. Our giraffe can be a symbol of longevity as well. Apparently, in some fable is that giraffe live forever and have the ability to transcend death, representing an immortal spirit. So, yeah, I feel like it's to make quite an interesting study to find out all these facts and fables about wildlife. Sorry, folks. I think we had some challenges with our camera there at Safari Hook, so we've linked back across to Juma, which looks very muddy, very wet, and quite overcast. And we've still got our Egyptian goose that's roaming around. Wonder where the other one is. There should be two. They're always in partners and pairs. So you can see him feeding on the grass seeds there. I'm sure after all this rainfall they've been having in Juma, I believe they had a very eventful birding day this morning. Sometimes with all the rain, definitely do have to get creative while on a drive um, when it's bucketing with rain. Birds are always a good. All right, seems like our feed is stable at Safari Hook, so let's link back to Safari Hook and see what our giraffe are up to. Oh, looks like they're finally having a drink. So, Spas Inkov, thanks for your question about why have the Gemsbok evolved to have paler colors on their body. So, yeah, Gemsbok, because of the environment and terrain that they live in, the very harsh conditions in Namibia, and kind of very desert environments. Their coats are primarily light brown or tan, obviously with quite distinct white and black markings on their face, legs, and bellies. And of course, these markings are thought to play quite an important role in regulating their body temperature. So it helps the animals to stay cool due to the very hot and arid desert terrain that they normally live in. So it's quite cool. Also, the facial markings. They have a lot of black markings on their face, especially around their eyes, and this helps kind of to reduce the glare from the sun, which is especially useful in very when they spend so much time in the open landscape. So it's very similar to that of cheetah. So cheetah have those tear, they call them the tear markings on their face, that black tear markings, and again that helps to reflect sunlight. So a lot of these colorations, black and white, can be used to help to reflect or refract light out of the eyes of these animals that spend so much time in the sun. So, Mindy, thank you for your story about your little giraffe friend at the zoo. Yeah, it's crazy when you see these creatures up close and personal, especially a giraffe. It's incredible how large they actually are. And yeah, their heads definitely yeah, quite impressive. I mean, the size of these incredible giraffes. So, a male giraffe can stand anything between about 4 to 5.5 meters or 14 to 18 feet. General size of a big male giraffe. So, yeah, and the females a little bit shorter than the males, so about 3 to 4 meters. That's the height of the female giraffe, like on our right hand side, or 11 to 14 feet tall. Those long necks of theirs do contribute towards that impressive height. And of course, they have those very long legs, which are very important. And yeah, oops, something's giving them a bit of a fright. So the older the giraffe gets, you can sometimes tell in the legs. So sometimes they do get very swollen joints, especially in the knees and around their hooves. They might get extra calcifications and a lot of swelling in their knee joints because of that extreme height of theirs and the very rigid friction of moving. It can cause quite a lot of knee and joint issues in these species. Of course, they've evolved and adapted over many years in order to be able to feed on leaves in trees that is otherwise inaccessible to other animals. Like, for example, our acacia. They also love feeding on the shepherd's tree as well, one of their favorites. It's taken quite some time. These oryx are definitely also taking their time to come down for a drink. So it makes me think there could be a predator close by, because a lot of the animals have been quite sluggish. So giraffe are semi-water dependent. They do need to drink at least once a day. Of course, they do cover quite large distances within a day. Those long legs of theirs help them to cover quite an expanse of distance. So they can move quite a large distance between one watering hole to the next. So, Liam, thanks for your question about male and female giraffe and how to tell the difference. So, it can be a little bit challenging. Again, the size, the males are quite a bit bigger than the females. Also, the neck. We had a male giraffe, was it yesterday? Um, at which location? Because we had a male giraffe at one of our locations yesterday that have very thick necks. So the males are generally, obviously, a lot bigger than the females. They have quite a thick neck compared to the neck of a female. And also, obviously the ossicones. The ossicones, those horns on their head, are a very big giveaway. So the females, as you can see with this female here, are very petite, very narrow, and generally quite fluffy. Whereas the ossicones of the male giraffe are generally quite thick, can be bulgy from time to time, even in some males can be broken and also bald on the top from all the fighting. So they use those horns or ossicones on the top of the head, the males, while fighting. So that does end up making them lose a lot of their fur. So yeah, the females' ossicones generally also tend to be a little bit more curved inwards, whereas the males tend to be yeah, more erect and upright. So that can also be another indicating species, is those indicating feature is those ossicones on top of the heads of the giraffe. So Catherine, yes, if you bump into a giraffe on foot, then you can really get the full kind of understanding of how tall they really are. And one kick from a leg from a giraffe, and yeah, that can very easily shatter bones. So when a pride of lions decides to hunt a giraffe, they need to be very careful because they could very easily get kicked and cause quite severe injuries. So Joey is asking about if all animals suffer from arthritis during their lifespan. So generally not, but in a lot of the bigger mammal species, arthritis can be an issue in some animals. So, for example, in our giraffe, elephants, buffalo, you do get issues like this. Rhinos can be quite a issue, and again, it can be due to mineral deficiency. So, in some areas, that might be mineral deficient. Arthritis can be a bit of an issue. I know in Zimbabwe and Botswana, there's a lot of elephants that are developing some sort of joint and bone problems that, even in young elephants, is causing a lot of elephants to also die as well or have strange deformities. So I know there's a lot of research has been put into this to find out why these young elephants from a young age are developing these deficiencies and deformities. But again, can one be genetics, and two can also be a deficiency of some sort? Because it seems to be all the same thing. It's not like one or two elephants that might have been injured. It seems to be a lot of elephants that are having the same issue. So again, it can be either something in their food, a deficiency, genetics, or some sort of malnutrition. So Spasienkov, thank you for your comment. Yes, this is a lovely view of these giraffe, and yeah, great to be able to view them so close up like this. But yeah, definitely do think there might be some predator around. I think you're right there, Catherine. Might be a lion or something lurking because yeah, there's been a lot of caution around this pan today. So, Linda, very good question about this pan or watering hole. If it is a man made watering hole. So, yes, there is an outlet to this watering hole. So, I do believe it is a man made watering hole. And again, the question regarding are watering holes a good idea? Are they good for the environment, good for the animals? Do they interfere with natural animal movements? So, yes, watering holes are good on reserves, especially if you have private reserves that you have kind of interfered with an animal's natural movement patterns. As long as these watering holes are not too close together, so it's known as sacrifice zones. So if you have a watering hole, you need to be prepared that a lot of vegetation will be damaged and destroyed around these watering holes due to pressure of animals. So you're kind of forcing animals to move into an area to drink, but while drinking, of course, they'll also feed. So they'll be very much impacting the vegetation around those watering holes. So In some countries, I know in Zimbabwe, there used to be a law in the 80s, in the 1980s, of 10 kilometers from one pan or watering hole to the next. And this helped to reduce the pressure on the vegetation in those areas. Unfortunately, in a lot of places, not just in Zimbabwe, but in Africa, would this kind of there might be watering holes that are too close together, and then these sacrifice zones or vegetation around the pans get very much impacted by a lot of movement of animals. Just having a scan because I'm sure there might be some sort of predator around. These animals are rather nervous, so let's scan around, see what else is out there. How Egyptian geese do not seem frazzled at all. But yeah, every creature that's come down to this watering hole today seems to be a bit wary. So here's our abdomen stork again, still hanging around. So this is a lovely view with the oryx and the giraffe. I say I do love getting the photos of these animals at the pans and the reflections in the water. So a big male giraffe like this would probably need to drink between about 30 to 35 liters of water a day. Obviously, they do have to be very careful when bending down, when bending over to drink. That's why they're very skeptical. But the oryx, even the zebra and the wildebeest were all quite skeptical here. So I'm suspecting there could be some predators lurking close by. And yes, although giraffe do need to drink at least once a day, they can actually go for quite a few days or even up to 2.5 weeks, 2 to 2.5 weeks without water. Um, Isn't that incredible that they can actually survive for long periods without water? Although if they do have the choice, they do generally try to drink every day or at least every second day. So we were just having a quick scan at some of our other locations to see if we have any activity, but seems like the rain has chased away a lot of our wildlife. So we'll just stick here with our giraffe for a bit. Maybe whatever they are so cautious about will come down for a drink if we're lucky enough. So I'm just reading up again about the facts and fables of giraffes. I'm really enjoying learning about these interesting facts and fables about all the wildlife we've been seeing today. And apparently, giraffe in East African tradition, are actually associated with love and fertility. So we read earlier about giraffe being also associated with longevity and never-ending life, but yeah, quite interesting that they're also associated with love and fertility due to their very graceful courtship rituals and very strong pair bonds amongst the male and female individuals during the mating season. So apparently, it is believed that giraffe sightings during certain times of year can bring very good fortune and blessing to a relationship. So especially during Valentine's Day. So I guess if you're on safari during Valentine's Day, you see some giraffe and you're with your significant other, this will be a very good sign of a happy, long relationship. How cute is that? Definitely remember that for February Valentine's Day coming up. Although this female is not being very tolerant of her partner, she seems to be leaving him. And off they go. So they'll probably go and head off and look for some areas with some nice acacia trees to feed for the rest of the day. I'm not too worried about any predators in the area, but hopefully there's something lurking. So, very good question, animal lover, about giraffes and why I do not think that giraffes have evolved to have shorter necks because it does seem slightly impractical and useless to have such long necks. Um, so, very good question. And again, it's all about food and diversity. So, again, the reason I think giraffes have not evolved is because they need to fill this niche of specific food that they feed on. So if they'd evolved to having shorter necks, I think they would just really not have enough food. So they need to be able to have those long necks to reach the very tall acacia trees to feed on the leaves that are inaccessible to other animals. Otherwise, there's so many other browsers and grazers out there. And of course, elephants also feed on a lot of food that would then be, yeah, in competition with giraffe. So I think they have those long necks in order to be able to fill a niche that no other animal can fill, and that's by feeding on the very tall leaves from the acacia trees. It's incredible how, as we see this giraffe leaving us here, a very good sign that they used to see each other in such big open savannas is that white color behind the ears. So they can see that white, bright white color from very long distances. See, obviously, all the elephant dung from all the elephant traffic and movement that's been left behind. A lot of big elephant pathways coming down to this watering hole. And as we mentioned earlier about watering holes and the impact that elephants and animals have on an area. So you can see in this area, a lot of the vegetation is very much stunted and growing at a very short level. And that's because of animals constantly feeding on this vegetation when coming down to drink. Alrighty, why don't we head across to Victoria Falls and see if we can do some birding there? Looks like we have some white-backed vultures that are hanging out in the top of this tree. Also, it also looks like a rather overcast day in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. Hopefully, they're expecting some rains as well. I must say, I'm rather delighted not to be in Victoria Falls during this time of the year. Yes, it is lovely with the rain and everything turning green, but that humidity that you get in Vic Falls is unbearable. So the vultures actually have to work for their food now, I think. So with the rainy season, it means there's not as many dead animals all lying all over the place as normal. Well, not normal, but as they have been experiencing at the end of the dry season. Yeah, shucks. The vultures have had 2 to 3 months of an all-you-can-eat buffet in the bush with all the starving animals that have been really struggling and all the carcasses lying all over the place. So now they actually do have to work for their food. These vultures. So Mika has just joined on the tech side, and yeah, it's a bit of a rough day today with the sightings. So she just mentioned to me that I think the all the animals have gone to their year-end function with the rain. Yeah, they definitely not much happening at our locations today. It's a bit of a dry day on the sighting side, but always good to take some time to appreciate the birds, watch these vultures. Um, yeah, during the rainy season, I must say it is quite entertaining watching the monkeys when you've had days and days and days of rain. The poor monkeys, so they wake up in the morning and sit on the trees, just like these vulture are sitting up on these trees here, hoping to get some sunshine to dry off their fur, and they look like drowned rats. And that's kind of how I feel like these vultures were feeling earlier today when it was raining. So they'll hang out, let their wings dry a bit before they can take off. Yeah, so they'll obviously a lot of these birds, bigger birds, when their wings are wet like this, they are not able to fly too well. So they do have to wait for their wings to all dry out before they can start flying. So while we're on the facts and fables, let's see what facts and fables I can dig up about vultures. So obviously, I do know the very common fact about vultures that their brain and eyes are very much sought after because they believe that you can actually see into the future. Um, but yeah, they're very much used in the dark magic or African traditional medicine. Some interesting myths about vultures. What can we find here? So again, in Egypt, vultures are an ancient symbol and were regarded as a very important symbol for protection. And they used to use them to apparently protect their ancestors. So any of their dead ancestors in Egypt, they would often draw vultures in the temples or tombs, and this is a form of protection, but also um, reference to the underworld or the afterlife. So yeah. Also, in many African and even South Asian cultures, vultures are obviously also shame. Unfortunately, vultures are very much associated with death, often seen as scavenging around dead animals. So their connection to the dual-sided world. So in the traditional sense, they're a symbol of renewal. So they can help clean up the environment. Um, and for example, in the Hindi mythology, vultures sometimes are seen as guardians of the dead, so responsible for carrying souls to the afterlife. Um, yeah, which is completely understandable. So we've got some marabou storks also probably hanging around after the vulture feeding took place. Looks like we've got a great white egret on the far side of the pan. Unfortunately, even though there's been some rainfall, it doesn't look like there's much grass cover yet around this pan here. We do have a salt lick or mineral lick. It's also for the animals there, which is great. We need a lot of salt this time of year. So Spas Inkov, thanks for your question. So no, giraffe don't actually bond for life. I think the significance of a strong relationship bond is more formed while the male is chasing after the female. So giraffe do have a more gregarious relationship with different individuals, so they don't form strong family bonds, but their mating display between the males is, yeah, quite elaborate. And again, the males do often follow after the females while trying to win her affection. So no, they do not actually bond for life. Giraffe. Oh, we have a yellow-billed stork, also just off to the right. Little watering holes, especially if there's lots of reeded vegetation, can be very good hotspots for birding, bird life. Especially in the reeds, always check with your binoculars in the reeds, the thick reeded vegetation. You never know what might be flying around. These marabou storks are enjoying a bit of an afternoon preening session. So, yeah, once marabous have been at a kill site or had a good feast, they'll often go and have a drink and also clean themselves to remove any parasites they might have picked up while feeding. So, George, thank you for your question about if I believe that there's any truth to these myths or folklore, or is it all danger to animals, especially endangered species like vultures? So, George, oh, you have an impala. I've heard of impala. Lovely. Some wildlife. So, George, yeah, we mentioned earlier about the kind of pros and cons to myths, facts, and fables, traditional medicine, traditional beliefs. So, I do believe that there can be some good to all these um, yeah, kind of different facts and fables, yeah, traditional beliefs. So it can help to protect certain species, especially if you have sacred species, can very much be protected, worshipped, um, and yes. But then it does become a bit of a problem when animals like vultures are then sought after for their body parts. Um, so and even with trees and plants, it can one be an advantage because you get sacred trees or sacred areas which are protected, but then in the other sense it can also be a negative because then you can get trees that might be damaged or destroyed in order to harbor or harvest the bark, roots, or parts of the plant to make traditional medicine. So it can work in the favor of wildlife or to the detriment of wildlife and bird life or the natural environment. I was just mentioning about how then education is so important. So there's a lot of NGOs, a lot of conservation organizations that yeah, work very closely with the community. So I think everyone always thinks that conservation is only about conserving wildlife, but conservation and community work hand in hand. So you need to educate the community about wildlife and how important it is to preserve this wildlife. So yeah, I know a lot of talk has been going on the last couple of years about like same as with regards to like the tiger bone wine that is now kind of yeah affecting Africa in the regard of obviously with tiger populations there's more tigers in captivity than in the wild. So now another big uh, craze is the lion bone wine. So a lot of lions in Africa are also being targeted to make this wine as well. So it can be very much to the detriment of the population. But our education is always key and working with the local communities so that they understand the value of wild animals being alive is more than the value of these animals to be used for traditional practices. So education is always key, and yeah, working with community and educating your communities around these private reserves is always very important. Have a look how Impala was coming to have a bit of a lick from the salt. So what will happen in the rainy season? This mineral block will be leached, and a lot of it will disappear into the soil, and the animals will then still be able to benefit from this block because the leached soil will still be full of minerals. I've actually put a GoPro once in a salt block like this, which the zebra very much tried to destroy. So it was the animals had actually licked a complete cavity in the salt block. Perfect, just enough space for a GoPro to go inside there. So I stuck my GoPro into one of these salt blocks once before, and yeah, almost lost my camera to a zebra. Got the inside of a zebra's mouth on video. But yeah, very important for these animals to get enough minerals and salts in their diet. So, Cat Fan, thank you for your information about the Zoroastrian ritual of death, which involves the vultures consuming dead bodies. Um, and you're not sure about how widespread this practice is now. I heard about that recently, actually last month, and I was actually completely horrified that that was actually allowed for people's bodies to be consumed by vultures. A very interesting practice. Crazy that it's still actually able to be um, yeah, I'm not too affair with that ritual, but I do believe it is still a ritual which does take place. Yeah, and I guess quite a yeah interesting theory about how you move into the afterlife through the vultures used in the ceremony. So yeah, quite interesting, very interesting practice. I don't think I would like to be eaten by vultures when I die. I think I'm okay. Planted under baobab tree sounds good. That sounds good to me. Yeah. Symbols of the afterlife. Marabou stalks, also very much used and believed to be a symbol of the afterlife in African cultures. These female impala, hopefully, some of them don't look too pregnant. They might be a little bit too young. Some impala generally start to give birth at the age of 2 to 3 years old. So this female to the far left does look like she's pregnant, but maybe some of these others are still a little bit too young. Catherine, thank you for your comment about being happy to be left in a game reserve and being food for hyenas. Um, yeah, it's kind of your worst nightmare to have a client on safari that doesn't mind being eaten by animals as the end. Yeah, life end. Yeah, I had a client 2 months ago that again was a little bit, yeah. Um, didn't mind if her last safari was in Africa, and it was a bit nerve wracking for us guides because she would constantly wander off on her own little missions, taking pictures of trees and all kinds of things. And multiple times we did have to say to her, "Please, we need you to go get back onto your plane and head back to. Please, you cannot. This cannot be your last safari with us." Yeah, she would often just wander off on her own in areas where there's big five and lions and buffaloes and oh goodness gracious me. So, um, yeah, not. I don't think every guide is happy to have clients that don't mind being killed or eaten by wild animals in Africa. Fear of wild animals is definitely a very good thing. Anyways, we shall stop talking about a morbid death. Um, so we got some blacksmith lapwings here, and so we have these cattle egrets flying in, and of course our great white egret busy hunting away, looking for some fish. And we must also keep an eye out for some crocodiles. Because this pan is not too far from the crocodile farm in Victoria Falls, and you often get some escapee crocodiles coming down to this pan that have managed to escape from their farm, and they often come down and hang out in these pans. Yeah. Often smaller crocodiles might even eat these egrets. I've seen a crocodile eating a cattle egret before. I don't think egrets are a very good meal. They do have quite a strange smell. Egrets, so the kind of oil preening gland that they have does produce quite a um, interesting smell that makes these egrets not very favored by many animals for a meal. So this egret's very long legs, so he'll slowly walk along the water's edge, keeping a very sharp eye out to see if he can find any fish moving in the water. Then when he does locate a fish, he'll generally adopt a side-winding method with his head and neck, which he then very quickly so the side-winding method helps him to locate the fish better before making the kill. So let's give him a few moments. Maybe he'll make a kill. So I am having all my faith that this great white egret is going to make a kill. They do develop quite beautiful colors during the breeding season. They just don't change color much. I mean, I know the cattle egrets, obviously, they get a yellow, quite orangish yellow, tawny color on the back. But these egrets, they just get very long, wispy, fluffy feathers, the males, to attract the females. This great egret is one of the larger egret species, a very long, lanky neck. Um, so it's black legs. And yeah, a lot of the egret species are very similar. Oh, what have we got here? Right hand side. Is this also a. Could be a little egret, actually. So yeah, a lot of the egrets are very similar, black and white, yellow bill, but they do have changes in their colors of their legs and on their face during the breeding season. I think we might have is that an intermediate egret on the right hand side or little egret? What is he? So yeah, you've got the yellow-billed egret, great egret, western cattle egret, the little egret, and then in West Africa you get the intermediate egrets. You get like a 4-5 egret species, very similar. But the great white egret is a lot taller, so a lot easier to identify. Just want to have a bit of a scan to the right, see what egret was roaming about there. Again, I do love how their facial colors change. believe the little egret's name has also changed to dimorphic egret. Goodness. Some of these bird name changes really baffle me, I must say. So the little egret, yeah, very impressive during his breeding season. Again, just like the great white egret, just gets a very fluffy back and some extra plumage. So I'm just looking again for the. It seems like the marabou stork is very similar to that of the vulture, so it's very much significant in the cycle of life, bringing of life and death. So again, very morbid. So I'm trying to stay off the morbid topics here. So basically, to sum up the marabou storks, and while the marabou stork is often viewed negatively due to its scavenging lifestyle, it also plays quite an essential role in the ecosystem. So its presence in folklore reflects the complex relationships many cultures have with nature, particularly with creatures that seem unappealing but contribute to the balance of life and death. So even though they have not the most appealing um, features, they are very important with the balance of life and death, these marabou storks. So, yeah, even though they have a face that only a mother could love, they're still important. Alrighty, why don't we head across to Stony Point for a little bit more birding? So it looks like we've got some penguins, the African penguins, and we also have some cormorants here. There is another cormorant, so two different species of cormorants. We've got the Cape cormorant and what's that cormorant? I think it's a Cape cormorant and white-bellied cormorant on the right. Let me just have a look see there, just to confirm. Looks like they're on a bit of a fishing break, so they've obviously been fishing all morning. Now they are enjoying the sunshine. I was talking about yesterday how the cormorants are pretty cool. During the breeding season, they get a very orange eye and blue around the bill. It's quite interesting color change that they have there. So white-breasted cormorant. So it's the Cape cormorant, and then of course the white-breasted cormorant on the right-hand side. And again, they do have quite an interesting color change during the breeding season in order to uh, attract the females. They're all having a good groom. And yeah, interesting fact that I learned the other day about the cormorant species is that they actually do not have an oil preening gland. And this is because if they did have an oil preening gland, they would not be able to swim as well. So the oil preen gland in birds very important to waterproof their feathers and to protect their feathers. So if these cormorants made their feathers waterproof, that meant they would float everywhere, so they would not be able to swim very well. And because these cormorants are so well known for diving and swimming underwater to catch their fish that they need to catch, yeah, it would kind of be detrimental to their lifestyle. Also lovely to see two penguins here. do love penguins. They do look rather fancy. They always, I feel like they're just missing a little bow tie. They're just missing that little bow tie around their neck. Which they do look like they're wearing little suits about to go into a conference. They've probably had a very busy morning fishing away, so I'm sure they've had quite a bit of rain in Cape Town as well. And these penguins are very well adapted to surviving in these cold environments, just like Cape Town. Oh, isn't this cute watching these penguins cleaning themselves? Jimmy, I agree with you there. It is really awesome seeing these penguins close up. You can see the intricate detail of their colorations on their coats. And those cute little flippers of theirs, so they have flippers adapted for swimming. They mostly feed on a lot of fish, so fish does make up most of the diet of these penguins. Very exceptional swimmers. Those flipper wings of theirs make very good swimming tools, so very good at swimming underwater. I mean, their diet is mostly fish, but they do also substitute their diet with squid, krill, and that's where deep diving comes into play. It helps them with their hunting methods. Got a cool question coming in from Animal Lover asking how long does it generally take these penguins to form their eggs? So, yeah, generally it can take anything between 65 to 75 days for the eggs to form within their body. And then this is when both of the parents will then incubate the nest. So both of the parents will then sit on the nest and take turns for incubation in order to help to protect the eggs, and then also to share feeding responsibilities. So at least they both do get to go and hunt and go and feed while they look after the little eggs. So Mindy, thanks for your question there, asking about if penguins were always flightless birds or if they did have ancestors that once flew. So apparently research shows that penguins have evolved from a common ancestor from a shared group of seabirds that did include albatrosses and petrels. So penguins kind of did evolve to dive and evolved their little flipper wings, just like puffins. And eventually, obviously, after many decades of evolution, they did used to be able to fly, just like the seagulls can fly. And after many years of evolution, they eventually evolved to having flippers in order to be able to swim rather than fly. So we've got a kelp gull here, sitting looking very important on his um, sitting his little stump there. So, Erica, thanks for your news about Cape Town. Interesting to hear that it's dry and hot in Cape Town. Shucks, unlike the rest of South Africa, which is all raining and cold. But I hope that it's not too dry and not too hot, and that we're all not being blown away by the wind. There's a grey-headed gull. That's a little grey-headed gull. So yeah, shucks. Even in the summer months in Cape Town when the sun is shining and it is not completely miserable weather, I'm sure, Erica, you can agree with me that water in Cape Town is very cold still. So I'm sure these penguins will enjoy their time in the sunshine, lying on the rocks, trying to absorb some heat, get some energy, regain their strength before they go back in the water for another plunge. And then, of course, we have a little grey-headed gull that's just roaming around, scavenging, looking to see if he can find any leftover pieces of fish or food that might make a good meal for him. Maybe we'll have a scan to see if our little rock dussies or hyraxes are still around. Yesterday we saw three little pups, three little hyrax pups suckling, which was quite a cool sight. And also we learned that hyraxes actually have four pairs of uh, mammae, so four pairs of mammary glands that they use to feed their little pups with. So they actually have 8 individual mammary glands or four sets, which is pretty crazy. See if we can spot our little hyraxes in there. Here's a spot that we saw some lying up yesterday in the sunshine. So these hyraxes will live in a perfect rocky environment for them. Lots of little hidey holes, places to escape in case they are being hunted by bigger predators. Oh, here's one hyrax. Hello, little guy. Looks like he's actually come down for a bit of a snack. So hyraxes have very specially adapted teeth, very sharp incisors, which help them to very quickly cut away at vegetation because they are herbivores. So, but also the longer they are on the ground, away from their rocky hollows, the more chances they have of being eaten by something. So they hyraxes don't need to consume a lot of food, and they don't spend much time feeding, but those sharp teeth help them to eat very quickly so they can escape back to the little hollows in the rocks. Oh, got our Egyptian geese here. Look at those pink legs. Imagine having bright pink legs like an Egyptian goose or like a flamingo. Very interesting adaptation. Lovely to just listen to the sound of the waves here at Stony Point while we watch these Egyptians grooming themselves. Maybe we'll see a seal if we're lucky. I'd like to see a seal today. And the cormorants, another white crested cormorant there. Cormorants. Alrighty, folks. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure joining you today live at the waterhole. I will be with you tomorrow as well. I hope that you have a lovely Friday afternoon and an even better weekend. I'm going to end with a few moments of silence. So thanks from me and the rest of the Wild Earth team. Don't forget to tune in to the Sunset Safari coming up next to support the guides out there in this miserable weather. Have a lovely Friday afternoon. Cheers from me, folks.